Oh, sorry. I'm trying to start up my laptop. So I'm hosting for Lori, but her laptop's not working so well. Hi, Laura.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Lori asked me to host this morning. I'm trying, but my laptop's not working. So I'm like, come on, it's hard to do it on my phone, but I might have to.
Well, good luck.
Thanks, you're going to help me.
Okay.
I know. I asked like Lindsey Watkins what she was doing today, and they're going on vacation. And then I was like, Ida, are you going to be on there? She's like, we're hatching baby chicks. And so I was like, well, Linnell will be here, right? And she's like, no, I have to run errands. I'm like, you guys.
We've got Shari and me, and maybe we'll just have a great discussion.
I know. So I'm like, this will be fun.
Laura, I can't recall what you look like, Laura.
What I look like? Well, we're already recording. I have a toddler. Okay. I have not done my hair today, but hi.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Where are you from? Tell me a little bit about you.
Sorry, I did not hear you.
So where are you from? Tell me something about you.
Oh, I live in Bakersfield. I live up the street from Lindsey, and I'm in the same ward. We're all in the same ward with Lori and Lindsey. We're part of that group. And I have 6 kids. So my husband's just called to be the stake president. So life is interesting right now. It's a adjusting period. So I've been very quiet lately because there's been a lot of self-reflection and figuring our new way of being. So say hi. This is Bennett. Oh, and
I did not realize that you were all in the same area. Are you guys all in the same ward?
we are.
So who's all?
So me, Lindsey, and Lori are in the same ward.
Oh, okay.
And then Lindsey Watkins is across town, but our kids go to Outsiders together.
Okay. Is that a co-op or something?
Yes, but it's like not members at all, but it's an outdoor school that's just absolutely magical. Lindsey teaches at it, and it's
Outsiders, an outdoor school? What do you do with Outsiders? That's cool. Are you recording already? I'm probably taking
I think it automatically records as soon as I start it, so we can
Oh.
edit it out.
Personal stuff here, but if you don't want to
I
share
know.
that.
We'll just
Okay.
edit or just not
Okay.
put it on YouTube.
There you go.
Yeah, you guys were cutting out. I don't know if it's on my end or what, but I'm guessing you told her we were all like you and me and Lori are in the same ward, and then outsiders. I heard outsiders.
Yeah. So she just asked what outsiders is like. And since you teach there, maybe you should.
It is, I would say it's organized chaos, but it's not even that organized. It's kind of just like unorganized chaos.
Okay.
And the kids play and go crazy, and sometimes they learn. It is, yeah, it's insane.
But they have their
Goal
doing
is
outdoor stuff. And
I know,
it's really fun.
Is that just me?
No, sorry, we can't hear you.
Okay, it's sorry. I was like, oh no. Yeah, I think my view of outsiders has changed now that I teach there. When I said my kids, it seemed magical. Now that I teach, I'm like, oh my gosh. This is madness.
That's funny.
But if I teach something I love, it makes such a difference. And it makes a difference in the kids I'm teaching too. It's crazy. So if I'm just teaching something that like I was told to teach, and I try to make it so that I love it, and I'm trying to like teach it to the kids in a way that they'll love it, but it just doesn't come across the same way. But if I can use things that I love, they're like silent and listen, and they're like respectful of the fact that it's something I love. It's interesting. Shari, I think we're losing you. I'm so sad. Who else do we have on here? Morgan and Jen. Hi, Jen. How's your son?
Outside.
You're doing pretty good.
We're still waiting on, we're gonna talk with the head surgeon next week
Everyone
for
keeps
the first
freezing.
time.
Okay.
And
Everyone keeps freezing up on me, so I just get little bits here. I'm like, I don't know if it's me or this might be rough today. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and just get started. Although I'd rather just visit with everyone. So I thought I would be Lori and channel my inner Lori and ask what everyone is doing to, what does the smile, heart, flower make you happy, warm your heart, and help you grow? Is there anything you guys have done that has warmed your heart or helped you grow this week or recently? And we can wait. I hope Shari has good reception and can come back with us. I know for me, we were just talking about outsiders. It's teaching the things that I love to the kids at outsiders. So our lesson this week was on plants and animals. And so I channeled my inner Marlene and I was like, okay, you guys, I want to introduce you to some of my friends. And I introduced him to Freckles. I said, this is one of my dearest friends. And I showed him the book and I read him part of Freckles and the part where he hears the bullfrog tell him to find out, and read that part to him and they loved it. And it was so fun. And so then later when we were out and we would find things that we didn't know what they were, we would find out and look in the field guide like Freckles did and find out what they were. And so that was super fun. And then I introduced him to Edwin Landseer, who was in my Book of Delights this month. So I read that with my kids and I was like, hey, I could do this with them. And he sketched the animals. And then I just told him about John Muir laws that I noticed. I wonder this reminds me of. So those three things. And then we went off and we sketched all the animals at Outsiders at our little base camp. It was super fun. And they took it so seriously and they noticed things. And then they really started wondering what it was. What kind of bird is that? So we have these parakeets, like wild parakeets out there. And they had never noticed them before. And so they were all excited that they found them and wondered what they were called. And we found some fish in the river. And we were able to look and find out what kind of fish they were. It was super fun. So that definitely warmed my heart this week. And Carrie, you're here. You're not muted. Let's see.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I'll mute.
Hi, you're fine. Unless you have something to say, then by all means, share.
No, just hi. It's good to be here with you guys again.
All right. And Melissa's here.
So
Is that
awesome. Can you hear? Okay.
Yeah.
So recently I was reading in the Catch the Vision course, book 2, and Marlene was talking about how simple the well-educated heart is. And for me, it was just like, okay, I've been like doing this for a while now and like building my library and things like that. And then to like reread that, or not reread it, because it was my first time reading it, and just like have an aha moment at a deeper level of understanding. But I really liked where she was talking about how it's the study of people, human nature, and then the study of nature. And it just made me think about how when I was first starting this, and Lori was like, okay, first get your library started and then work on your backyard and make your backyard magical. I feel like that should be like the official step 2 of the well-educated heart, like make outdoors magical. And so this year we just, in our garden boxes, normally I do like try to have this big garden and it never works ever. But so I just planted some peas with some wildflowers, and then I had some seeds that were wet that I just kind of threw in the other garden box and was like, oh, we'll see what happens here. And I have a ton of green beans, and it's been really fun to just watch them grow. And in the wildflowers, my 3-year-old has some little fairy garden pieces from the dollar store. And so it's fun to go out there, and now there's lots of flowers out there, and it's magical, and it's fun to be outside because we've just made it this happy instead of a chore like it used to be, I think. So I really liked reading that, and it made me feel like just a deeper level. So I love her spiral learning, and it for me too, and learning how to do this, it's like one level and then catching it at a deeper level, and how important notebook. And anyway, I just feel like I had this big aha moment and okay, understand it a little bit deeper. So that was fun.
I love that. And that we don't have to like wait till our backyards are perfect or like immaculately landscaped or anything, but like those little bits of magic, like a little spot there with your wildflowers and your little fairy garden, like that's all it takes. Like it is very simple. By small and simple things are great things brought to pass. And it's like a little thing, and it makes such a difference. It's like a huge bit of magic.
Oh my gosh, Lori, can I piggyback on that?
Is that Shari?
So is this Lori? Like, I've only been on a couple times. You don't look like Lori. Are you Lori?
No, I'm not Lori. She asked me to fill in for her today. She was up all night with a grandbaby, and so
Oh, okay.
I'm pretending. I'm just pretending to be Lori today.
So okay, so what's your name?
Lindsey, sorry.
Lindsay. No, it's nice to meet you, Lindsay. So I'm just going to piggyback off of what you and Laura were saying, just in it being the small things, and sometimes just the doing of the things, even if you don't feel like you know what you're doing or you're not prepared completely, like you said, not having the immaculate garden. It wasn't well-educated heart, but I feel like well-educated heart prepared me for it. Last night we had a really difficult conversation with our 12-year-old, and like really sensitive and really kind of painful and she was expressing some deep feelings, and it didn't end well. And I was kind of at a loss, and I went to my scriptures, because that's what you do when you don't know what to do. And I was looking for like a scripture that would tell me the answer of what to tell my daughter. And I didn't find one. And so I was kind of discouraged, and I went, and I'm the organist for our ward. So I was playing through the hymns, and I just had this strong feeling that I needed to just go to her. She was in her bedroom. And so I did. And this wonderful conversation ensued. And the feeling I was left with was, sometimes you go to God for answers, but it's the going to God that you get your answers. And sometimes with a well-educated heart, I feel like it's the doing of it. Even if you didn't have a big aha right then, it's the cumulative effect. It's the action of going back and just softening your heart, and that's the answer sometimes.
Yeah. I like what you said about the going back, because sometimes I feel like, no, I don't need to read that. I've already read it. Or I don't need to listen to that. I've already listened to it. But it's the times when I go back to it that, like Laura said, it adds this whole nother level of meaning. Or it's just that going to it that softens my heart, or reminds me of something that I'd forgotten about it. So yeah, just that going to it. Like our scriptures, we've read them over and over again. But we don't stop reading them because we've already read them. Like, you keep going back, and it's that going to it that we're going to be instructed and taught by the Spirit just by going to that.
And I know not everyone, that is on well-educated heart is religious specifically, but I agree with you. It's the going back, and it softens our heart, and it prepares us then for whatever conversation or whatever growth or whatever, is coming next. It's just that process of going back to the good and going back to the nurturing and the nourishing.
Yes. Yep. I'm gonna leave a moment here for anybody else who's debating, making a comment. Jen, it looks beautiful where you are. The sky is blue.
It is a very nice day. I need to soak up the sun whenever I can, because we've had so much rain and it has not gotten warm yet for the spring. But today is nice. But I'm missing California today when I hear you ladies talk about it. I lived in Eastvale for 5 years before we moved up here. So yeah, missing it. When you talk about the outsiders, I'm like, oh, I would love to do that, but we're stuck inside for a lot of the year. Or, I mean, not stuck. We could go outside, but we don't always. Sometimes we do.
I can't remember where you are. Are you in Washington or Utah?
Washington.
Washington.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just been gray and rainy for the last month, most of the month, and we're all ready for spring. At least the flowers are here and they're pretty.
Yes, the rain does make it beautiful, but you have to have the rain.
Yeah, it does. I love the plants and the trees you can see over here.
Yeah.
There's big forest over there, and I don't know if you can see it that well, but pretty trees in our neighbor's yard. Ours are still really small, but
They'll get that.
we planted these bushes this last week because our neighbor was getting rid of them.
I love it.
So
I love it. Yep, I love Washington because everything does just grow so easily. Here we have to water it and water it and water it. And then if you stop watering it, it dies.
that's true. But you have sprinkler systems that help.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yep, we have lots of
We don't have a
sprinklers.
sprinkler system.
Yeah.
So in the summer, we still have to water.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Beautiful. Sorry, you're back. Go ahead, Jen.
I did have some kind of thought with what Carrie said. I don't know how to say it, but just that I've been learning again lately with the little by little learning and the consistency over time and the patience, and just realizing that I've been wanting, because we've talked a lot in our church about hearing him, hearing God and following that but it's got me over analyzing so much, like in the last couple of years. I'm like, I don't know how, and I'm not getting it, and thinking that I'm missing something, but really I was just looking beyond the mark because I am receiving it. It's just not the same process that I was looking for. So, and I know that, but somehow it was brought to me even more forcefully this past weekend. And I'm really grateful for that, because I need to just accept the Lord's way of doing it, and that it is a slow process, line upon line, and how we learn, like Marlene teaches the layering, like just to be content with just learning a little bit about this topic. Like we don't have to fully cover it, just a little bit this month, and then I know we'll come back to it. So just learning those lessons again.
Yep. I know, I do the same thing. I want the answers sooner. So I'm like, okay, I like listen really carefully. Like, is that it? Maybe I should research and find the answer myself. Like, I just need to think about it more, and I'll just keep like pushing until I can try to come up with an answer, when really I just need to wait. The Spirit will tell me. I just get so impatient. Lori and I have been trying to set up our Well-Educated Heart School for the fall. And I have all these questions, like, what are we supposed to do, with, a specific thing? And I want to like figure it out myself, and it doesn't come, like, I can't figure it out. And then if I wait long enough, the Spirit's like, here's what you're supposed to do. So I just need to learn, and I'm being taught that over and over again with this process of just wait. I'll tell you what to do next. So yeah. We just have to line upon line. Once we understand one part of it, then he'll give us more.
Yeah. And when we act on it, we have to take some actions on what he's already given us, which is sometimes I just want to be sure before I act. And so that just keeps me stuck, because I'm not going to get more until I act on what he's given me already.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
That's been a big lesson I've learned too, that even though I don't know all the answers, just to keep working, like get up and work and keep going, like keep doing the things I'm supposed to do, instead of sitting there and dwelling on what I don't know. Use what I do know and keep working. And then the other stuff will come while I'm working. So, yeah. All right, Shari, I know you came back to tell us something great.
Yeah. Oh, I'm listening. I'm being fed here. I'm loving all this. Thank you. Great stuff. I think that's the plight, maybe. When I know.
Oh, you're cutting out again.
Critical, if you want to use that word, of myself. Oh, then my husband is, but of himself. But I don't know if it's a women thing or if it's. Am I cutting out?
You were. It's better now a little bit. Maybe.
It might be my internet. We live way out in the country.
I think I would take the country over the good internet any day. All right. Oh, and Emily's here. On my phone, I have to scroll around, and Sarah's here. See who's hopped on since the last time I scrolled through. I dropped my laptop, or my daughter dropped my laptop a few weeks ago and broke the screen. And so I had the screen replaced. And now I'm realizing that something else is wrong. It's still not working. So anyway, side note, laptop problems. But so the other thing, okay, so I was trying to figure out high school because I feel like I felt like I was really good at the little kid stage and letting them learn and being outside and letting them be curious, and all the homeschool videos and things you see are all little kids. And it's just so magical. And I can always think of activities for little kids. Well, my kids are getting bigger, and I've been like, we can't just make like star constellations out of marshmallows all the time anymore. Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, I've done all those things. So anyway, I was reading, I pulled out my roots, my Thomas Jefferson education books, and I started reading a chapter out of The Home Companion, and right away I got my answer. I just jumped to a chapter in the middle. I was like, I think this is where I need to be. And like the first thing I get is, what am I doing to make time for my study? Like I've got chores to do. I have all these things I want to do. And I'm teaching at outsiders. Like I have all this stuff. When am I finding time for me to study? And that was like right away I remembered, oh yeah, you, not them. Like I need to be studying, and then I'll get my answers as to what I'm supposed to do with my children, and it will help me in teaching them. But anyway, I was wondering, my question for you guys is, do you have a system where you're finding time to study, or is it sporadic? What does your study look like right now?
I'll comment on this. I don't have big kids, but this week I'm still trying to find a groove. My second is kindergarten age right now, and we had a groove before he started kindergarten, but this year we have not been able to find a groove all year. We just keep trying to change it up and find our groove, and we haven't found our groove, and it's pretty much the end of the year right now. And so this week I said, okay, here's the list of all the things that we need to do in a week. We need, we're working on learning. And so this week, I just want you to do something from this every day. Something in each of these categories every day. I don't care what it is. That's all I want you to do. And I'm going to try to do it too, because most of my days this year have been spent nagging, as sad as that sounds, just trying to get stuff done that needs to happen. And so instead of waking up and saying, okay, let's get this done, come on, let's go, because we've got stuff we want to do that's fun later, I got up and I wrote my journal and I read a book and I sat at the piano, and I don't really play. I can kind of plunk out the right hand, and I plunked out a song on the piano, and then I went and sat at my loom. And before I knew it, it was almost lunchtime, and I hadn't seen my kids pretty much. And they had been playing Legos and telling stories and reading books to each other and playing with math manipulatives. And yeah, I think just initially they're like, what are you doing, Mom? And I was like, I'm doing what I told you I would. I said we were each going to do something from each of these categories, and so I'm working on that. And they were like, oh, well, Mom's busy. Let's go do stuff. And when I wasn't asking them to do their workbooks, they played a lot better than they normally do. And they learned a lot more. And even my not quite preschooler was doing math and all sorts of fun stuff. So this week has been interesting. I pointed out the goods. There were some downs with that as well. So I'm not sure how we're going to proceed. This was an experiment for a week, but it seems like on the weeks or days that I don't focus on what the kids are learning and focus on what I'm learning, they seem to learn better. But it's a hard thing for me to figure out, because I like the measurable learning resources. So it's a hard pill to swallow, realizing that the thing that might need to change is just the way I cope with measuring how we learn. But when I learn, they seem to learn better.
Yeah, I always forget that until I do it again. And I'm like, oh, this is magic. So I've been setting an alarm every day at noon to go sit down and practice the piano. And I'm not taking piano lessons or anything right now. I'm not very good at it. My kids are way better than me. But I sit down and I just try to play a song. And I just pluck away as I get the melody, whether it's out of the songbook or a hymn or something. And I just play. And it really is amazing what that does. Usually halfway through, what I want to be doing, the kids come in, they want to practice piano, or they change what they're doing. It changes the whole tone of our house when I just sit down to play for just a few minutes. I can't even explain what it does, but it is pretty cool. So I remember, yeah. If I pull out watercolors. I feel like watercoloring, then somebody comes over and wants to watercolor. So us taking the lead and doing that, I know we talk about this like every week, but I feel like we forget so quickly. Like both, like you said, like you don't know how it'll keep looking. It's so hard to stay consistent in that, like putting our own learning first to lead out in our families. It's hard to keep doing that for some reason. Why is that? I don't even know.
Then
Can I share something?
these-
Well, I think something that's coming to mind while you guys are talking is show, don't tell, right? And I think it's so easy to just fall back into that tell, because that's what we were done, you know, that's how I was raised, that's how I was taught, you know. And so that's what I fall back on. It's just tell, do this. We're doing this. This is how this looks. But you're right. Like when you show and do it for yourself and inspire instead of require, like all these things that we hear repeated. And I think for me, I just set them on the back burner and forget about them and move on. But I love this discussion and that you're bringing that thought to mind, and it's a reminder that I needed to. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, and I feel like I always have that in my head, that inspire, not require. But sometimes I start asking the question, how am I supposed to inspire my kids? How do I inspire my kids? And I forget the how, and that we just do it and we show them and we set the example. And if we're learning inspiring things and we're reading those stories, it's just naturally going to flow over into our kids. And I forget that all the time. I don't know. I need to put like a big sign next to my bed to remind me.
So can you hear me, Lindsay?
Yes.
Oh, wow. A miracle.
Yay.
Those are really great comments. Thank you. I just wanted to mention real quick, if you can hear me. I often rely on the great people in the books that I read to the kids to provide the inspire for both myself and my children. We lean very heavily on lots of reading and read alouds, and I have half teens and half kids.
That's kind of the answer I keep getting, especially as we plan our school. I keep thinking, okay, what are we going to do with I see you, Sarah, with our like older kids? And I just keep thinking they just need to read about great people, and they just need to be reading these things and reading great books, and that'll lead to everything else they need to work on. But okay, Sarah.
Hey, so I was just talking about our own study. I was just thinking about something that my husband taught me a while ago. He was getting back into like going to the gym on a regular basis, and he had heard this principle of leaving as soon as you start enjoying it. So he started implementing that. He would go to the gym, and as soon as he started enjoying himself, he would get back in the car. And sometimes he was there for like 5 minutes, and that was it. And then he was back in the car. And I thought it was a little bit weird, but I mean, it's his journey and whatever works for him, right? But that just, I don't know what it is about the psychology behind it, but it helped to keep him wanting to come back. He never left like feeling exhausted and unmotivated. He always left feeling like he was enjoying it, that he was wanting more. And now I'm getting into the gym too. Like haven't really ever done that before, but now I'm using kind of a similar principle of like, when I start enjoying it, I start enjoying it. And then I don't have to go any further than that. I can just kind of wrap up and it's good. And I've been able to be a lot more consistent. And so I don't know that I would impose like a time limit on my kid who's really interested in something, but that might be something that I can do a little bit more in my study. Like I hadn't thought of implementing that in that way, but maybe I can just enjoy it, and then as soon as I notice that I'm enjoying, I can be like, you know what, I will save the next little bit to be my treat for next time and be able to have something to look forward to and have a place to start off for next time.
That's so interesting. So when my kids were really little, like my first couple ones were little, my mother-in-law gave me that tip with them with a lot of things, like always like remove them from something they're doing that they're having fun with before they start crying. So if they're in the bathtub and they don't want to get out, that's the time to get out. Like make them get out because they still love it. Like don't wait until it's like, oh goodness, we need to leave. Or like at the park, leave when they're having fun. So you always like end on a high note and you're not like, someone's crying, time to go. And I didn't always follow that advice. Most of the time I was enjoying myself. And so we would stay until it was time to go. But I like that for ourselves. I've never thought of using that on ourselves to stop when we're still enjoying something. So that's interesting. I'm gonna have to test that. I think a lot of times I feel like though I have to stop when I'm enjoying it, like somebody will come and need me and then I get a little bitter because I'm like, no, I was still enjoying myself and somebody else stopped me. But if we stop ourselves, maybe before we get interrupted, I won't feel bitter. I don't know. Emily, I'm not sure how to mute you. But
Oh, I'm sorry. As
You're
you
fine.
listen to my baby.
I love listening to the babies. I just didn't know if you knew you were not muted, but I hope you guys don't take offense to when I say you're not muted. Doesn't mean I don't want to hear you. But now everybody made sure to mute and it's just me. Well, I love these tips. It's helping me figure out how to make time for my own studies and how to like just be okay with little bits. So I think that's kind of what we are getting at here, where it's just a little bit will be good enough. I always feel like, no, I need like hours to study something.
So can I say something about teens real quick?
Yes, please.
How many of you have teens that you're working on? Okay, so Laura and Lindsay, and I can't see who else, but
Jan.
Okay.
And Melanie.
Yeah. So I'm just learning this, and I'm like you, Lindsay. I'm like, okay, how do I? Because I don't want them to have the default of saying, okay, now I'm a teen, I'm going to go to public high school. Been there, done that. Our first big group of kids were raised a lot in public high school, and it was challenging. There are lots of drawbacks to it. And my 15-year-old just chose to go to the public high school last year as his freshman year. And he said, that's it, I'm homeschooling next year, which is this fall. But then they pressured him into wanting to go back again. So anyway, a lot of it, the success that I feel like we have had, but I'm just still searching for how to draw them in, is through the books, having them doing things and creating things with their hands, things that they're interested in. While listening to audiobooks is a big one, especially if they can't commit to just reading the book, although they need to do both. But Audible, or whatever audio program you use, has been a huge help to us. So one of my teens, she was out there doing finger weaving with yarn, and I started playing on Audible The Secret Garden for her, and she's loving it. But I realized that I need to upgrade it a little bit and set a note card in front of her. I've learned this from my experience, with a pencil on it, and say, okay, when something really strikes you, pause the book and write down your thoughts, what it is you're thinking about, and what was it that stirred that thought. Because that's what I want to do with the books that I'm reading now, is to learn to pause and write as I go, capture what I'm learning, so it's not just gone. So anyway, other than that, I don't know what else to do, but I think we don't give enough credit to books. And some of the greatest people, Abraham Lincoln, Joseph Smith, actually, if you know anything about Elon Musk, I mean, that's what they did. They read and read and read and read.
Yeah. And when I go back to, yeah, like where I initially got my answers when like praying about homeschooling, I'm reminded that that's where it's at. It's about reading those great books and learning about those great people. I'm going to read Emily's comment here. I saw it pop up. She says, during high school with one, lots of prayer and giving student the choice from a list. Not exactly inspire, but a step away from require. Audiobooks are a tool we use every day. The biggest thing is that I need to learn to think of how to bring the topics into the student in a way that she wants to learn it. Yeah, that's always the tricky part. Like there's certain things we want to inspire them to learn, but how do we make it so that they want to learn those things? But going back to the audiobooks thing, I had this conversation actually with my son and Laura's son this week. And I asked them both, well, what are you guys reading? Like, what have you read any good books? And her son goes, well, I don't like to read. And I was like, I know that's not true. Like, you like to read. He's like, well, I just don't like to read. And I was like, well, what about like audiobooks? Like, oh yeah, I love audiobooks. Like he likes to be read aloud to, and he loves audiobooks. And I was like, that's the same thing. And then they had this whole debate on, is it the same thing? And I said, well, what is the point of reading the book? And we all agreed the point is to get the book like into you, like to hear the stories and to learn the things that the book is wanting you to learn, like the learning, through the book. And I thought, well, whether you're reading it with your ear reading, I love that. That's exactly what we got to. Like whether you're reading it through your eyes or reading it through your ears, it's still getting into your heart. It doesn't matter. So yeah, so we got to the end of that. But I think there's a place for both, I suppose. But I 100% think the audiobooks are just as good. The story is getting into your heart.
My only concern, so I'm going to play devil's advocate for a minute. My concern though is that I don't like to do a super structured curriculum, because I try to do TJ Ed, I try to do well educated heart, and so I'm kind of hoping that the kids will pick up on all the spelling and the all the grammar, and just as I kind of picked up on it by reading a lot, seeing it. And if they're not seeing it, I'm worried, you know what I mean? I'm worried that if we rely too heavily, that's just me saying, they need to also read, I hope, or I think.
Yeah. Sarah.
But Shari, at some point, if you just help them be a little bit self-aware, I would think that would then become something that they have a desire to learn. Like if you're the one like jumping in and telling them, oh, you have this error and that's not quite right all the time, and they start to feel like, oh, I'm really not good at that, and just start to feel down on themselves, that's different from helping them be aware of like what's good that's out there that they can pursue. And they might ask for instruction on it, and they might look it up online and start teaching themselves, and like be motivated from inside of them to pursue something that they can see that they want. Does that make sense? I'm obviously not an expert. I only have toddlers, so like take that with a grain of salt. But that's the idea that I had while you were talking.
Well, Sarah, I appreciate that, because I think I could actually pose it to them and say, hey guys, I love audiobooks too, but here's the thing. You will be a really excellent speller. You will be excellent with punctuation. You'll be excellent with grammar if you do also read it with your eyes, not just your ears. So maybe that's what I get out of it, is just to tell them, here's what I think, because, and I will add one more thing. The Mother's University stuff, I can't tell you how much my teens love it. I listen to, read articles to them and teach them about some of the different things that she talks about with current education, the problems with current education, and making you think outside the box. And so that Sarah, that reminded me, your idea of having them be self-aware is as they're growing older, I'm talking to them more about their education. And I'm actually getting the materials from the Mother's University. And I'm hoping, and they're really interested in it, but I'm hoping they can catch their own vision, you know, as we go of their own education. And it's starting to happen, but it's a lot of faith too.
Yeah, because once they have the desire to learn it, then they'll want to learn. I mean, they'll remember it. It'll mean so much more to them once they have the desire to do it. All right, I think I saw Emily's hand go up and then Melanie's.
Yeah, so I would just wonder, well, okay, I'll share my experience. Our oldest didn't want to read for forever. And so all she was getting was audio, right? And very little visual. Like she wouldn't even read a verse of scripture, you know, like, so for years we just let it happen and tried to be, you know, not pressuring and whatever. And she finally just started writing. And through that, you know, and that was a mess for years. And she's starting now to correct it, to go back and edit what she's written. So I wonder, Shari, are your kids writing? And maybe your story is going to be different from mine, but I think that the audio is just as worthwhile. I think even if they're not seeing the grammar and hearing or seeing the punctuation, whatever, they're hearing how that flow of speech. And I think it's clicking for my daughter. You know, it's took a while, years, right? She heard it and then she started writing and then she's going back and saying, okay, this sentence doesn't work or this paragraph doesn't flow or so, and she's doing that all on her own. I'm trying to be completely hands off and just let it naturally happen. Anyway, so I don't know if that is like there's hope or this is our experience or try writing. I don't know.
Actually, that totally, thank you. That does fill in the gaps for me. I realize that it's not just through reading. You're right. Absolutely. It's through writing that they can get that stuff. And also we have spell check today. I mean, we don't have to have it all in our brain, you know, but yeah, thank you. That is reassuring.
All right, Melanie.
So just one thought on a way we can inspire kids in having the desire to spell correctly and write clearly is just pointing out situations that come up naturally in life where it is a problem. And just one example happened for me this week where some guy came to our door trying to get us to talk to his boss about getting solar panels on our house. And I didn't want to give him my phone number, but I'm like kind of interested in at least learning more about it. And so I got his phone number. So he wrote it down. They, I guess, don't have business cards because COVID or something, but he still like wrote the number down. And I looked at it after he left and I couldn't read one of the numbers of his phone number. It was like, I couldn't tell. I could guess that it was like 5 different things. And I showed my kids, I'm like, can you figure out this number? And they had different guesses than me. And so I thought, you know, he probably works on commission and he could have just lost like thousands of dollars of a sale because I couldn't read that one number. So I pointed that out to them. And so it was just one more little example of like, it's important, you know, it's important in the real life. It could have made, you know, hundreds or thousands of dollars of a difference for them. So just helping them to see like the relevance in the real world of why the spelling or whatever affects people, I think can have an impact.
Yes. See, I love that. And Sarah, did you and Abby have something?
Yeah, I actually was reminded of something that my siblings did. I wasn't homeschooled because my parents started that when I was like a senior in high school, so it wasn't worth it. But now thinking back, actually it would have been. Anyway, that was a tangent. Anyway, my siblings were homeschooled, and one of the things that they did was that they participated in a writing group with some peers. And basically the only thing they did in the writing group was that they each came prepared with something they had written and had it printed out. and the other members of the group read it aloud to the writer. And that helped so much, especially with my brother, who was not interested at all in anything English related, but he would write like D&D campaigns. And so even if that's the only thing he would write, he brought that, and the other members of the group would read it back to him, and he could see, like, he could hear based on the way that they were reading it, like, oh, I need to put a comma there so it makes more sense to them. Oh, I need to like change this and change that so it flows better, because I'm hearing the way that they're understanding my writing rather than the way I hear it in my head when I write it down. And so that helps them a lot, just to have peers reading it back to them. So anyway, just an idea.
That's a good idea. I love that. I knew the Mothers of Influence, or the Mothers University topic for this month was writing and language arts and things, but I thought, you know, I'm not going to bring that up because then I get so focused on that I forget to like listen to what else we need to talk about. And yet our conversation still came back to the Mothers University topic all on its own. So that's fun. I think bringing it back to us, I mean, I love talking about homeschooling, but I know that I can get carried away just talking about homeschooling and forgetting again that it is about us first. But I was reading a book recently that Marlene recommended called If You Want to Write, or if you, yeah, is that what it's called, Laura? If You Want to Write. And it inspired me so much, not just in writing, but in like deciding what I love. And it just, as I made notes somewhere, but I don't know where they went. That's a problem. I write things down and then I lose it. But it just inspired me so much. Oh, you know what? I just found them. They're in the same notebook. Anyway, just getting like, when you write things, just that, I think it's that same power that we have, like when we think of anything creative, like it's our imagination, like we're putting down on paper the things that we want. I don't know. I'm all over the place in my thoughts, but it was very inspiring to me to like that the same things we use when we go to write something can inspire us in lots of different ways. Anyway, then I've seen all these different things on Instagram and stuff lately, these like writing prompts, and I thought it's inspiring me to actually want to write. And I am not a writer, but I think it's important for us to practice that. And I think when we expect our kids to do it, and then we try to do the exact same assignment or the same thing we're expecting of them, it's hard. And I think it's good for us to do the same first before we expect it of them. Let's see. I see hands up, but I don't know who was up first. So I'm just gonna let you guys unmute yourself.
Sorry, I don't know who's the first either, but I'll go. Not necessarily language arts, kind of taking it back, but just before this meeting, I was sitting with my kids, and I don't know if anyone else's kids are like this, but my kids are like, if they see anything, they're like, I want to try that. I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to, like, all the things, all the sports, all the classes, all the options. And we don't have the time or resources to do all the things that they want to do all the time. And so we made a list of like 30 things that they might want to do or learn or participate in. And I had them organize them, like starting with one with their favorite, the one they most would want to do, and go through the list. And the funny thing is, I think the highest number we got to on one of my kids, it got to 18 things that she'd want to do and didn't bother marking the rest. But all three of my children are in a sport right now that they all said they wanted to participate in, and none of them even listed that as one of their favorites. Like, they didn't even bother putting a number to that sport. Each one of them has at least 10 other things, possibly 18 other things that they'd rather do besides the sport they're currently in. Which is just super funny to me. And I had no idea that they had so many other things they'd rather do than the sport they're currently participating in at the moment. And part of that could be that they participating it for the first time and realizing it's not something they want to do. But that just really opened my eyes for this meeting, that all these things that they want to experience or do, we're not doing some of the ones that they like or are interested in the most. We're doing some that they aren't even interested in at all. So I think, at least for me, it was I kind of really reevaluate where their priorities are and what they're really interested in learning, and making that more of a focus, and just checking in more often. Because yeah, I thought we were doing the sport they all wanted to participate in and were really excited about, and none of them even didn't make their list at all. So I think, how often am I doing that in their day or throughout their lives with different things, where I'm misunderstanding their interests and their desires and what they want to do, instead of focusing on the things they really, really want to learn and do, and how much more interested and self-motivated would they be if we were doing those things instead of things that they didn't care about as much.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot of that too, the checking in with our kids, having the meetings. I overanalyze that too. Before I do it, I feel like I have to be totally prepared before I can like sit down and talk to my kids about what they want to do. I feel like I have to have a list of all these things that I can suggest to them, or like maybe what they need to be doing. I'm an overthinker. I'm going through my notes now in that book and I'm getting a little distracted, so I need to stop. But it was good.
Lindsay.
Yes.
So a couple weeks ago, my sister asked me if I would read a book with her. She was like feeling like just a lot of unsatisfaction in her life. She has 2 little kids, and I've tried to get her to do the Well-Educated Heart and things like that, but she hasn't quite caught it yet. So she asked me if I would read this book with her. I said, of course, I will. Well, in the book, there was this example of this gentleman who's, being coached and how he could find more satisfaction in his life, more enjoyment. And it was surprising to me, the things that this coach told him to do were to find something that he loves to learn about and to go and learn. And then she was like, there is power in doing, like, stop overthinking things and just start doing just little things, little steps. And so I loved Carrie's comment about how important it is to just start doing little things, and how much power that can bring into living the Well-Educated Heart. And then I love how Marlene talks about how, when we're setting that example, and I loved how you asked, okay, what are we doing in our lives to set that example for our children? And when we set that example, we'll follow, and we will find that joy and that satisfaction that so many people are craving in the world. And yet Marlene is here giving us all these little things that will help us find that satisfaction and that joy and that true learning that we want our kids to have so bad. And so I've loved this conversation and the power of doing. And then I loved what Shari was saying about how important it is to get teenagers to be doing stuff with their hands. So Lori coaches my 2 teenage daughters and Lindsay's daughter, and the things that she has them do are like embroidery and crocheting, and they all play the piano, but the power of like creating with your hands. My oldest daughter crocheted sunflowers onto quilt blocks and then sewed a quilt together after she lost one of her very good friends this last year. And that brought so much power and healing to her life. And so it's neat to watch all these principles play out in our lives, and then to have that affirmation that creating and doing those and learning things are so important in everybody's life. So just wanted to share that.
Yes. Laura, I feel like that could be our recap for today. These things are important. And I was thinking of you when she was talking about that, like doing something with their hands and listening to the book. I thought, that's how the Pollock House is. That's what they're doing. And I love going over there because they always run out to my car if I'm dropping somebody off and they show me what they're working on. It's so fun. And yeah, and just doing those little things. I left my teenage daughter alone yesterday while we were all at Outsiders and she was home alone. And I loved that I came home and she had watercolored what they had done at chalk night the night before. So she had made this beautiful watercolor of the sun and the pretty like purpley things around, like from Tangled. It was just so pretty. But I just left her alone to do what she wanted to do all day, and that's what she did. She painted something. So
You know what? I would love it if after this, y'all could maybe just take a second over on Marco Polo to throw out some ideas of what you have, your ideas of what your kids do with their hands. That would be really helpful.
that would be very helpful. And how many of us do it ourselves? Like, I watch my daughter knit because she just learned how to knit from Lori, and I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I want to do that. So I feel like I need to be doing those things as well. But, all right. Well, Linnell is not here to give us a beautiful summary. I was going to read something from a book I just finished, but I left it in the other room. I could go grab it, but let me go grab it. I just better do that. Oh, as I trip out the door. That was really graceful.
It's okay. It was off screen.
I know. I'm okay. Okay, so I just finished reading Mother by Kathleen Norris. It's really old. I don't know if any of you have read it. And the whole book, the oldest daughter is so confused why her mother would like sacrifice her whole life to like have no money, have a bunch of kids, like slaves away to cook them dinner. She's just like, I am not doing that. Like, why would she do that? And the whole book, I'm like, when is she finally going to get it? That this is what brings her mom so much joy. Like, this is what like makes life worth living, is having this family. And I just was like waiting for her to get it. I even kept telling Lori, I can't stand this anymore. Like, when is it gonna click for her? And finally at the end, there is a man that loves her, and she's so afraid to have him over to her house because she's afraid he's gonna see that they don't have money and it's just chaos and her little brothers are a mess, and it's so funny. But he comes, and then she's all embarrassed walking back to the train station thinking, okay, at least like it's over. And then he tells her, oh, if I can find it. So he basically confesses he's been there before. He's already come to talk to her parents. So this wasn't like a surprise to him. She didn't know that. He's already like asked her dad for their hand. I hope you guys don't plan on reading this because I just spoiled the whole book. But he says, so she was, nervous, and he says, I hope I'm reading the right part, but you are who you are because of your family, Margaret. Don't you see that? Haven't you heard what I've been saying? No society woman can hold a candle to a warm, sympathetic, and sacrificing mother such as yours. So he's like telling her how he loves her because of who her mother is. And what wealthy businessman do you know who can talk as kindly to his wife or children as your father does? When I met your family, I knew beyond a doubt that you were as genuine and warm as I had thought. It just like wakes her up, like, I hadn't thought of that, because she's been working for this businesswoman and kind of sees the contrast, and she sees all the good in that she has all these helpers, but then she starts realizing if that woman were to die, life would go on without her. Like, all of her nannies and cooks and everybody would just continue on. Nobody would really be affected. And she goes to bed and starts thinking of life without her mother. And it's just beautiful. It says Margaret saw it. she was able to see it without her mother and realize the impacts that her mother had on the whole home. And then she's just so grateful that she finally can see the beautiful, what am I trying to say? Everything that her mother has done for them and how beautiful that is, and that's what she wants. And it finally clicks. When I actually get the right quote and find it in there, then I'll share it on Marco Polo. But I'm gonna keep stuttering over my words trying to find it. So I just loved that. I love that book, and it just made me realize that as imperfect and as unglamorous as what we're doing looks sometimes, it is making such a difference in the lives of our families and their future families. As she finally saw at the end, that's what I want. Now I understand why she had children. Now I want that. When she felt the love that her mom had for her, she wanted to carry that on, and it just was beautiful. So I just wanted to let you guys all know, in a very unglamorous and stuttering of my words way, that what we're doing and what you guys are doing is so beautiful and so important. So if anybody else has a more eloquent way of ending this Zoom, then go ahead. Oh, Melissa, your hand is up. Oh, where'd she go? All right. Does anybody else have anything to add before we go? All right.
I think you did wonderfully.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi.
Let me just say thank you.
You're welcome. I feel like we should, I guess that's what the We Heart shares are for. I'm I just want to do a Zoom with everybody's kids. So I can just see everybody's kids. Okay. All right. Well, love you, ladies. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Lindsay, you did great.
Thanks, Sarah. I feel like I do well in conversation, but as soon as I'm like, oh, I should say something really good, then it's like, blah.
Yeah, forced eloquence is a little bit more difficult than just off the cuff, say whatever. Kind of
I know. And there were some great quotes in here, but of course, when I am under pressure, I'm like, I can't find them. I don't know. So I panicked.
Yeah.
But thank you. And your little girls are just the cutest. I want to come hang out with them.
Please do. If you're ever vacationing in Utah, let me know.
We used to vacation in Utah every summer because my sister-in-law was there, and we would go, we'd stay with her, and we would just hang out as long as we wanted to. But she's not there anymore. She's here, which is great. We get to see her all the time, but now we have nobody to go stay with in Utah. And it's just yeah. Plus gas in California is insane. So I'm like, we don't need to go anywhere.
Yeah, it's nearly $5 here. And it's I don't remember it being nearly $5 since 2008. So
yeah. Yeah, I didn't remember it being that much.
Maybe eventually road trips will be.
I know, right? I was looking through my daughter's baby book, and she was born in 2008, and I was looking at I'd written down the price of everything, and the gas prices I think were $4 something, and I was like, I don't remember them ever being over $4, but apparently it was then, and then it hasn't been since then, like you said. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I remember them being in the $4 range. I was young though. That was when I was 2008. That was when I was 11. So yeah. I was really little. I wasn't really paying attention, but
yeah, but I obviously wasn't paying attention either. I had a baby, so I was like, whatever, I'll stay home. But, yeah,
you're not driving a lot with a baby anyway.
No. I did take her a lot of places. That was fun. It was so fun. Anyway, I miss those days, so enjoyed them. I'm gonna live vicariously through you with your little ones.
Okay, I'll let them come on the screen as much as they can.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a
I'm
good
gonna
week.
head.
Okay.
You
All right,
too.
bye.